Welcome into a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. I want to say hello to all our viewers on the Chicago Sports Network. Glad you found us. Hope you'll make it a weekly habit to tune in to watch Stacey and I every week. And every now and again, Timmy Whispers might show up, but he's missing in action. We found out that he's at his palatial estate in Fort Myers. Didn't tell us he's going or nothing. Yeah.
And HR will be waiting for him when he comes back. You just cannot take these vacations on your own time. We all must be alerted to when someone's leaving. I'll let everybody know when I'm out of town. You let everybody know when you're out of town. He just decides to leave when he wants to.
Funny thing is, Tim bought that place a few years ago, and it didn't seem like he really had a plan in mind. He doesn't use it very much. So he bought a second home in Fort Myers, Florida, thinking that'd be his winter home. But the guy's so busy with running his business and everything else that he almost never gets down there.
Well, you know what? If he keeps up, I'm going to be using that a lot more than he is.
The grass is long. The trees aren't maintained. People are like, who is this guy?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty soon there'll be squatters in there, and he's not going to be able to get them out.
Hey,
They're doing that in Florida. They're doing that in Florida.
Yeah, I know they do that. We got a special guest coming up. Stacey's former broadcast partner, Neil Funk, is going to join us. And that was quite a get for you, not only to get him to do the Derrick Rose game, but he's not a big fan of doing podcasts. So you probably had to do some real arm twisting.
Hey, listen, you know what? I mean, that's our relationship. Neil would never do a podcast. He would never come on anybody's podcast. And if it's for me, he'll do anything for me. That's how I was lucky to be able to reach out to him. Because I knew he was coming back for the Derrick Rose celebration. But since Adam was going to be out and there was no replacement at that time, it was just like, it just was a no-brainer, because he's been there throughout Derrick's career. He was there at the start of Derrick's career. So what guy better to have in that situation to call a game? And plus, it'll be good, rubbing elbows with him. We were on the phone this morning for like 45 minutes as I was begging him to come on the podcast. It was like old times. Like we were just laughing and giggling and just having a good old time.
And this whole Derrick Rose thing, if you're watching on Chicago Sports Network, obviously we were taping this on Friday before it happened. The whole Derrick Rose thing has really taken off. When it was first announced, people thought, oh, that'd be cool. Tibbs and the Knicks are coming back. It'll be a nice night. But now you hear of all his former teammates who are coming in, guys who have jobs with other organizations are flying in from I heard Drew Gooden's coming in, Brian Scalabrine, who do everyday broadcasts for their teams. They're going to take time out to make sure they can be there. That shows you how much not only Derrick Rose was a great basketball player, but was a great teammate and really transcended the sport.
Well, that's indicative. I mean, you look at how many guys are coming back. Kirk Heinrich will be back. A lot of these guys will be back to celebrate with Derrick. But that just goes to show you what kind of, not only was he a great basketball player, he was a great teammate. And I'm excited about it because, again, I was here from the very beginning, and I owe a lot of Derrick's success trickled down to me. Some of my calls. He got me on the track of how I am today. So I owe a lot to him for that. I'm looking forward to. I get to speak during the celebration, which is awesome. So. A lot of heartfelt things. Joakim will get to speak. Neil will get to speak. So it's a big deal, and I think the fans are going to have a treat.
And they've turned it into really a weekend-long celebration. On Thursday, Derrick had this pop-up rose floral shop where people could come in, pose for a photo, and he gave them mini bouquets to send to some of their loved ones. I mean, he wanted to give back, and that shows you what kind of guy he is.
Well, I'll tell you how popular he is. That the line was almost like 10 blocks long to get in there. Which was amazing. It shows you the popularity that he still has. He's loved here. He coming from where he came from and all the adversity that he had to go through, the support of his family and the people that's closest to him to keep him away from the streets, keep him away from danger, and keep him focused on his dreams and goals that he had for himself is an amazing story. I mean, this could be, I'm telling you, somebody write a movie about it. It'd be a great movie.
No question. Yeah, and Chicago Sports Network had a great feed on with him and Joakim talking about their memories of their time together. They played some of the great highlights, the Boston series with all the overtime games. I mean, that was still looked upon, even though it was first round, that was one of the most exciting playoff series ever with all the overtime.
Well, and that team, was so close to coming out of the Eastern Conference. They were so close, maybe one player away from really pushing them over. Derrick took a lot of flack, that he didn't recruit guys. And, Derrick has always been loyal to his teammates, the guys that he goes to war with on a daily basis, the Keith Bogans, the Carlos Boozers, guys that, that he goes to war with every day. And he wasn't about to, beg guys to come play with him. He wasn't going to beg LeBron and, D Wade and all these guys. Hey, if you want to come, we're open arms. We'd love to have you and we can win it. Right. But I'm not going to sing and dance and beg you to come. And that's not his demeanor, And he took a lot of flack from that, but his teammates love him. They love him for it. Because if you get those guys, Mark, you got to let some people go.
Right.
Bogans is gone probably because D Wade falls into that position. Boozer might be gone because you get Chris Bosh. So a lot of guys might have been in different locations if it wasn't for Derrick Rose.
And Taj Gibson was in Chicago recently when the Charlotte Hornets were in town, and he talked at length about his relationship with Derrick. He's going to try to make it back too.
Yeah. He said he was going to make it back. We saw him in Charlotte. He said he's going to make it back. It's a big thing, because all the adversity that Derrick Rose went through with the knee injury, it's one of those stories. What could have been, had he stayed healthy, where could his star risen? Could he have gone down as one of the greatest point guards in the history of the game? I think he could have. Injuries robbed him. Like, injuries is a part of the game. They rob a lot of players of what could have been, but his career wasn't over. Like, he could have easily retired and took the money and ran. He took a lesser role, became a reserve role, became a sixth man with the Knicks, helped the Knicks change their culture to where they are today. Went to Minnesota, had a 50-point game. He had a very productive career as a point guard, changed his game a little bit. Maybe he wasn't the high flyer that we were so used to the first go-around. Derrick Rose, the second go-around, was a much more grounded point guard, much more get you, the quickness was still there, the explosion was there, still one of the fastest guys, 94 feet, but he changed his game. He wasn't trying to dunk on people like he used to, and he took what the defense gave him, and he still was an effective scorer.
It was interesting listening to comments the other day from Tom Thibodeau, of course, will be there when Derrick Rose is honored, and coached him throughout his Bulls career. He was talking about he could see the fear in opponents' eyes. And that was pretty interesting because this Tibbs isn't a guy to make grand statements. And for him to say that, I mean, he knows the game as well as anybody. And he's telling people that he's on the sideline. He could see people were like, how am I going to stop this guy?
I'm telling you, it was the same as Michael Jordan. It was how people feared Michael Jordan. That same fear was Derrick Rose. And we used to have a funny saying, like the top guards in the league when Derrick Rose would come to town. This is the truth. You go back and look at the records. The records documented. Guys would be sick when Derrick Rose would come. So we say they have the Rose flu.
Yeah.
Guys with Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, all these guys who are superstars, now, and everybody looks at them and go, oh, man, they were great players. Derrick put the fear of God in those guys. They did not want to play Derrick Rose because not only is he faster than you, he's more athletic than you, it's just that his will to win and get to where he needs to be on the floor is greater than yours. His will to win is unmatched, and so to see the fear in these guys' eyes and Derrick was never a showman. He's not one of these guys that beat my chest and I'm yelling and screaming, showing everybody it's me, me, me. He's always been about the team, and he's always let his ability speak for itself.
Yeah, and the thing is with Derrick, just a humble superstar. He was really uncomfortable talking about himself, and throughout his career, didn't really enjoy the media give and take so much in terms of doing formal interviews. But now you can see as he's gotten older and matured, he's got a family of his own. His teammates are saying he's more comfortable with accepting the accolades that he's going to receive this week.
Well, I mean, you think about it. He comes in as a 19-year-old. Expectations are super high because he's from the city of Chicago, and he put this city on his back, and he took that responsibility. And as a 19-year-old, he wasn't in front of the camera a lot, in college. He didn't have that journalistic approach that we all have as we get as juniors and seniors, where we know how to talk in front of the media. We take few classes that teach us how to talk in front of the media. He never, he didn't have that opportunity. He came out after his freshman year, and then immediately he was already an introvert. He was already a quiet, I'm a keep to myself guy, but let my game do the talking. He's always been that way. And so he was very guarded. And then when he didn't talk, people want to talk for him. Some people in the media want to talk for him. And, he never defended himself, never called anybody out. And, when he got hurt, you still hear people talk about, oh, he wants to see his son walk and down the aisle and all this stuff. Who wouldn't want to see their kid walk down the aisle and be healthy?
Right.
You know, who wouldn't want to walk their daughter down the aisle and not have hip and knee replacements and be able to go down the aisle without a walker? I mean, anybody says that, you know, you're not going to look down on them, but it's Derrick Rose saying it because he's not coming back from injury as fast as everybody wants. So there was a time during those injuries where people turned on him, but the real people didn't turn on him. His teammates never turned on him. You know, his family, his friends he grew up with, the real ones never turned on him.
Let's talk about the current Bulls. We'll reflect more on Derrick's career when Neil joins us in a few minutes. Bulls split on that 2-game road trip, and really those are 2 games you wanted to get because you're playing 2 of the weaker teams in the league.
America. Disappointment. We've lost to some of the worst teams in the league this year. You know, we lost to Utah when they only won like 3 games. You know, Washington. Who else have we lost to? Some other bad teams. This team tends to play to the level of competition. You can't go from beating Milwaukee and beating the Bostons of the world and beating some of these good teams and look good doing it and then come back and lay eggs against teams that you should kill, you know?
Right.
Now, if you're looking at lottery thing and keeping the lottery pick, you know, people are like, that is a good loss. That's a good loss. But these players are not playing for the lottery. These players are playing to win. And if they continue to play like they're capable of playing, you're looking for this team to be in the playoffs, and they may not be a top pick. So you might as well get used to that if you're a Bulls fan, because these players are not trying to tank. They're not. If the Bulls were trying to tank, they would already have moved Zach. They'd already moved Vooch. They'd be sitting these guys down and playing the younger guys. But, you know, like you see Washington doing, you see Charlotte doing, Charlotte missing 4 starters, playing two-way guys out there.
Yeah.
Those guys are actually actively tanking, okay? The Bulls are not tanking. They're playing every night. They're competing. They're trying to win. And so it's going to be hard for this team, the way it's constructed, for them to fall into the lottery. It's just going to be too hard because they got too much talent to win.
Yeah, and you look at that. Right now they're battling Detroit for the 9 and 10, and Detroit just lost Jaden Ivey, that horrific leg injury, the fractured fibula,
Ooh, that was
when
nasty.
Cole Anthony accidentally ran into him, and he was really coming on. He was averaging about 18 points a game, really establishing himself as the running mate for Cade Cunningham. Detroit has some good things going with Jalen Duren on the inside, Isaiah Stewart. I mean, the Ausar Thompson kid is a nice player. They're starting to build something good. So that was kind of a horrible thing for Jaden Ivey's career. Now you wonder what Detroit is going to do if they're going to try to go out in the trade market and maybe try to add somebody.
Well, I mean, you don't want to panic if you're Detroit because you're scheduled where you're supposed to be right now. You know, you want to be better than you were last year. You want to see the development of your 2nd and 3rd year players be better, which they are. They are taking that next step. And we talked about it. We talked about for the season he started that Detroit has enough talent to be one of these teams that make a jump in a couple of years like Cleveland did, like Orlando did. They're going to take their lumps the first couple of years. They're going to take beatings, you know, for the next couple of years. But at some point, those kids now are going to be seasoned. Cade Cunningham is right now showing you he's one of the best guards in the game right now. And Jaden Ivey was playing extraordinarily well. So you got to figure that's the backcourt of the future. He's going to recover. He's going to be 100% when this is all said and done. So you don't want to go out there and take on a contract if you're Detroit. You know, you're just like, hey, you know what? It was a tough break. Unlucky break for Jaden, but we got enough talent to keep going in the direction that we're going. We don't want to add salaries to our roster, where we're not going to be able to move from that when Jaden Ivey comes back. So let's just stay in pat and just keep developing.
One of the other big storylines, Jimmy Butler met the media after his Heat lost a game last night, and he just kind of went off saying that he wants to be dominant again. He doesn't want to go stand in the corner and just be playing limited minutes. He was asked if he could find his joy back in Miami. He said he loves it off the court, but probably not on the court. And Pat Riley released a statement last week where he said unequivocally, we are not trading Jimmy Butler. And Pat Riley can be as stubborn as any man walking the face of the earth. You're going to have a classic clash here because, you know, for Miami, Jimmy makes like $52 million. It'd really be hard to trade him. They could just get him off the books, let him walk, and then they could go out in free agency and get somebody
Exactly.
else.
Pat Riley's not going to budge. And Pat Riley knows that Jimmy is being disruptive. So he's been disruptive for a while now. And, you know, sooner or later, Jimmy's got to understand, man, he's the problem. He's the problem. Everywhere he's been. See, everybody blamed the Bulls when he was here.
Yep.
The Bulls are this, the management this, and they're not letting Jimmy build around Jimmy. Okay. First stop, Chicago, I can see fans saying it was the Bulls' fault. But now we're starting to see that it wasn't the Bulls' fault.
Right.
And if people really knew what Gimme was doing behind the scenes to alienate himself from the teammate and the coaching staff, you'd have a different opinion of that. So now he goes to Minnesota. He blows up that team, goes to Philadelphia, and he lights a match and blows up the bridge on that team. And now he's in Miami, the place where he wanted to be with the culture. I want to be coached. I want to be coached hard. And I want this and that and this. So you have all those things, Mark. And now you're mad because, first of all, you're 35. You're 35 years old. Okay. You still think you're a top 10 player in the league. Okay. You want top 10 player money, but no one is going to pay you at 35 years old that kind of money that you're seeking.
Right. Yeah.
You'd be a fool, because here's a reason why you'd be a fool to do it. And I like Gimme. Jimmy's one of my favorite guys. The problem with that is Gimme only plays 60 games a year. He's self taking himself out of games. It's not the team is sitting like, all right, Gimme, you're hurt, rest. Gimme is saying Gimme doesn't want to play. Jimmy's only probably played 82 games maybe once in his career, and that was here in Chicago.
He wants to save himself for the playoffs.
Yeah, well, you got to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if you're not playing and you want to be an elite player, you're supposed to elevate your team to the playoffs, not hurt them where they're coming in. If he plays 82 games, let's say he plays 76 games, he elevates Miami to a top 5 seed, possibly top 6 seed, where he's out of the play-in game. You sitting out, 20 something games a year puts your team in a play-in situation. And now you're fighting to try to advance. And then when you get beat, he got hurt again last year, knocked him out of the playoffs last year. He wasn't 100%. And then he's talking about, well, if he was here, Boston wouldn't have done this, Boston would have done that. Pat Riley made a comment. The people who don't play need to shut up.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Right. And that's how Pat Riley is. Pat Riley is always been about no one's bigger than the team. No player is bigger than the team. I don't care how much money you make. It's all about heat culture. Gimme has really alienated a lot of people who want to support him. They buy into this. He's a team guy first, but you can clearly see with his interviews, he's not a team guy first. Because if you were a team guy first, you wouldn't even be talking about trades. It's like, hey, listen, if they work it out a trade, whatever. But as long as I'm here, I'm gonna give you 100% maximum effort every single night. And he's not doing that. He tried to fight Spoelstra last year,
right?
Until Haslam stepped in and threatened to beat him up. So Jimmy's caused problems everywhere he's went, and he's got to turn that mirror around and say, hey, you know what? I got to start looking at myself, because the common denominator to all the problems is Gimme. It's not the team, it's Gimme.
I think the only team that might be willing to take him on is Golden State, because they feel like they've got maybe one more shot with this group with Steph Curry. But I don't know how you'd match the money, because Jimmy's making $52 million, like I said.
Well, I don't know how you're going to match Gimme and Draymond Green together.
That's true. Yeah.
Now you got two volatile, combustible people, okay? Gimme wants to be the man wherever he goes. Gimme wants to be the guy. You're not the guy in Steph Curry's team. You're not the guy, you're not that Steph Curry's team. So you're going to have to play a complementary role. He doesn't like the role he's in Miami right now, and he's like the number 1 or 2 guy. So if you're not happy in Miami, what makes you think you're going to be happy playing somewhere else?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. The February 6th trade deadline rapidly approaching, only about a month away. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as the Bulls are concerned, you're around the team every day. It seems like things have really cooled off. I don't hear anything regarding the Bulls and possible trades.
No, but you know what? Sometimes that's the best.
Yeah.
Because the less people know, the better. Because all these assumptions, this person's going here, the Bulls are going to get Zion Williamson, all this. Half these people don't even know what they're talking about. Right. It's just let's throw something to the wall and see if it sticks. Okay. When you don't hear something, and that means people are working behind the scenes quietly, trying to get a deal done so that they can get the best deal for both teams. When you put it out in the public eye and say, this is our trade proposal with, say, Denver, for instance, Bulls are talking about trading Zach for so-and-so. Now you get people scrutinizing. Well, Zach makes too money. You're giving up a young player for an older player. Right. So now everybody can scrutinize. All the experts can scrutinize it. But when you don't know what the trade is, what you going to scrutinize?
Yeah.
Stays out of the media, stays out of social media, stays out of Instagram, Twitter. What are you going to do?
Other big story since we came to you last, Mike Brown fired by the Sacramento Kings. Man. Mike's a good guy, and he's been successful just about everywhere he's been. Now, Sacramento got off to a terrible start, and we hate that our guy DeMar DeRozan is there. Now some people are saying, well, say DeMar DeRozan was the problem here, which is crazy. But Mike Brown is the scapegoat for the fact that the team was underperforming. And sure, he's got to take his share of the blame, but he just signed an extension over the summer, and after 30 some games, they launch him.
He's a coach of the year.
Yeah,
he took you to playoffs first time in 20 some years, and this is how you reward him. Okay, at the end of the day, coaches know they're hired to be fired. It's the players are always going to get credit when you win, and you're going to get the credit when you lose. Okay, at the end of the day, that organization has been firing coaches, hiring coaches, firing coaches since the turn of time. There's no stability in the front office. There's no stability with the coaching staff, because the one coaching staff that you had, that there was some semblance of some stimulation there. You fired the guy because, we're losing right now. We should be a better team. I think your expectations are too high. You got into the playoffs last year. Great. We're happy for you. You won 40 something games. The goal this year should be win 50 games and be a higher seed than what we were. Now, what is the reason why this team is not playing well? Well, of course, they're going to say DeMar DeRozan, the pace is slower, whatever. Okay. How about that, Fox is not playing as good as he's been playing. Sabonis is not playing well. Keegan Murray has regressed in their offense. He's not the player that he once was, the bright young player that they expected. Malik Monk is now in the starting lineup, when he was coming off the bench giving you, some scoring. But there's a lot of different factors. But it starts with the front office. It's front office has been shaky for a long, long time. And until they get that part of the organization straight, and then the owner let the general manager do the general manager job, let the people coach, and not step in and go, act like he's playing, NBA 2K. I'm firing people and trading people and all this. They're going to struggle.
Lakers made a minor trade, kind of a significant trade. They sent D'Angelo Russell to the Brooklyn Nets along with Maxwell Lewis and 3 second-round draft picks. In exchange, they get Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a really good 3-and-D wing, and then Shake Milton, who can be a backup point guard for him. Finney-Smith, does he move the needle much for you? I know he's shooting about 43% on threes this year.
Yeah, he does, defensively. This is a guy reputation as being a 3-and-D guy. He made himself into a three-point shooter, and he can lock down anybody on the floor. Now, they still need a center. They get a center, and now you move Anthony Davis to full-time power forward, and now you got, Finney-Smith as your 3, LeBron out there, whatever position he wants to play. That's a formidable lineup, depending what center you get. They're talking about Valanciunas out there from Washington.
Right.
I've heard Vooch's name here and there. They get a center. They could be fun to watch.
I don't know. You've been busy trying to catch up, coming back off the road, but yesterday on Inside the NBA, Charles Barkley went off on JJ Redick. Yeah. Saying that he thought he could come in here and turn all this thing around. He hasn't done crap and all the rest. That's Charles being Charles. But there was a semblance of truth, because JJ came in there pretty cocky, thinking that I know basketball so well, and with me straightening them out with my system and everything else, I'm going to take them to the next level. Well, basically, they're the same team they were last year.
Yeah, they were the same team they were with Ham, Darvin Ham.
Darvin Ham.
JJ comes off, he's a smart guy, but he comes off very smug.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the smartest guy in the room. So, you got to remember, you got the job because of LeBron. Mm-hmm. Lakers don't hire you if LeBron doesn't push for you to come in and coach the team, because they were on the podcast together, the 3 and the Man, the Old Man, whatever that podcast was. And JJ does have a good mind for basketball, but when you look at that team, the team is not, the way it's currently constructed, Mark, is not really constructed to make a deep run. Can they get to the first round? Yeah. Could they possibly get to the second round? Maybe, but that's it. They're not gonna beat a Denver in a 7-game series. They're not gonna beat Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Dallas. Dallas is struggling a little bit.
Luka's out.
Yeah, Luka's out. But they're gonna pick it up at some point, and they're gonna be a better team. But you're not going to beat those teams. The Lakers not going to beat those teams in a second round game. I'm sorry, they're just not with the way the team is currently constructed. Now, if they go out and get a center, they can, like I said, they can play the post. And I don't know why everybody, like, if I'm a team that's going after someone, I'm going after Vucevic. I really am, because the way you want a center that can play away from the basket, that can post up, still has a great post-up game, and has a high basketball IQ, which all Vooch has. You put Vooch on the Phoenix Suns, the Suns are a legit contender. You put Vooch with the Lakers, the Lakers are serious contender. I don't know why Vooch's name's not coming up more. I would take Vooch over Valanciunas any day of the week.
Oh yeah,
Any day of the week.
Right.
He's got an affordable contract, and he's having his best year he's had in a long time. He's having an all-star season. There's no way in the world, if I was a team that needed a center, there's no way in the world. Golden State. If I was Golden State, I'd go make a move. If I felt like Steph Curry's window was closing, I'm gonna do whatever I can to build around him and get the players that are viable that can play with him. And you put Vooch on Golden State team, that automatically elevates them to a different level. This is a double-double guy every single night, guy that can stretch the floor shooting threes, and a guy who's a legitimate post-up player, arguably the third best post-up player in the game today.
One of the other hot topics going around the NBA is the three-point revolution and how it's impacted ratings and people's interest in the game. We're going to ask our guy Neil Funk about that and a whole lot more when we come back on Gimme the Hot Sauce. I'm sure Neil will have some opinions on the state of the league and what's going on, if the NBA is as watchable as it was when he was calling games on a regular basis. But before we take a break, I'll tell you about one of our great sponsors, our good friend Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to being treated like royalty, contact Jeff for all your auto, home, and business insurance needs. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. The phone number, 847-825-4783. Stacey, you got a jingle for the folks?
Nationwide is on your side.
Easy as Friday afternoon. We're going to come back and talk to the great Neil Funk. That's next on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Welcome back to the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. It is now our pleasure to welcome in Stacey's longtime broadcast partner, Neil Funk, joins us as he gets ready for Derrick Rose night in Chicago. Neil, we have to share a secret, full transparency. You know, our little show is now aired on the Chicago Sports Network, so it's going to be aired after the fact. So we can't pretend that you've already experienced the Derrick Rose night. So we're gonna try to keep this as legitimate as possible. But you know, Stacey said that there was really only one choice of who he wanted to come in and do this game. When he reached out to you, what did you think initially?
Well, first of all, I wasn't aware that this was on tape delay.
So we can edit out all the bad stuff.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was, I was excited because when Stacey first, broached the subject of coming back and doing the halftime, and then because Adam had his NFL duties that I should do the game with him, I was excited. I mean, first of all, I don't get all that many opportunities to come back to Chicago. Two, I love to see Stacey, and three, I'm going to get a chance to actually work a little bit, so it'll be fun, and it's for Derrick, and it's justly deserved. He meant so much to the franchise, to the city of Chicago, that it's a shame that injuries kind of cut short his career, or what his career might have been. But he was impactful nonetheless.
Yeah, that's the question I'm going to ask you, Neil, because we both were here Derrick's first year, and I know what I saw. But talk a little bit to our viewers about when you first saw Derrick come in and what kind of player you thought he was when you saw him.
Well, it's interesting, Stacey, because if you recall that he played the 1 year at Memphis, and so when the draft rolled around, you knew he was either going to be the first pick or the second pick. I didn't see all that much of him at Memphis, except for the NCAA tournament games that were on TV. So with a rookie, you never really know. But having said that, I'll say that when Derrick arrived, and you and I went down to watch a practice, preseason practice, it was obvious that without question, he was NBA ready. He had an NBA ready body. His athleticism was off the charts. And he was just a guy that you knew was ready to play in the NBA. A lot of times rookies, no matter how highly regarded they are, it takes some time to kind of figure things out. I think Derrick had it figured out from the very first time he stepped on the floor.
You know, one of the things that's been fun to watch with Derrick is that, later in his career, he had to accept different roles with different organizations, coming off the bench, playing limited minutes. And the maturity that he showed and the humility was something I think that we could all take a lesson from. And now, after making the decision to step away from the game, it seems like he's able to accept the accolades that people always wanted to give him, but he was reluctant to take. If you noticed that maturity and that desire to say thank you to all the people who treated him so well over the years?
Yeah, I think sometimes people maybe got a little bit the wrong impression about Derrick because he was a shy kid.
Yeah.
He really was. I mean, he for a kid that came from a big city, he was not all about himself, not boisterous. Right from the start, you could see that he was a little bit reticent in front of the cameras. He was a little bit shy. Um, and but as his career evolved, so did he, and so did his personality. And you touched on it, Mark, the fact that after all the devastating injuries that he had when he was asked on different teams to play different roles, um, and he was not only willing to do it, I think he was engaged when he did it, and I think nothing points that out more than the great uh, respect that his teammates, not just in Chicago, but in New York and other places, the great respect that they had for Derrick, not just as a player, but as a person.
One of the things, Neil, I always tell people is like, you know, I want to know what it felt like for you and Johnny Red Kerr to call Michael's games. And then you're probably thinking that you probably never see that kind of athlete again. And then all of a sudden, here comes Derrick Rose years later. What was your thinking during that time, especially watching Michael play? Did you have that same sentiment that you might never see that again?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just wish that Derrick's career would have gone on longer, that he hadn't suffered that devastating injury. The one thing that we didn't really get a chance to see, Stacey, was we know how great Derrick was and was going to be going forward, but we never got a chance to see the franchise fully develop a roster around him. You know, I mean, Michael had Scotty and you and Dennis and Bill Cartwright, John Pack, but so they kind of built that roster around him. I ultimately, were it not for the injury, I think that's exactly what the Bulls had in mind for Derrick Rose, and that would have really been fun to see just how impactful he would be. I mean, he was impactful anyway, but with a roster that was really suited to his game.
Neil, I'm sure you don't get a chance to see the current Bulls very much, but they're kind of stuck in the middle. The NBA has become kind of a weird dynamic where you're either contending for a championship or people expect you to tank to try to get one of the top picks. Do you think we've kind of lost our way in terms of trying to compete every night? It seems like you either have to be at the penthouse or the outhouse. There's no in between in the NBA anymore.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Stacey and I talked about this a little bit earlier this morning. I The league to me is it's kind of gotten away from what it was and what it's intended to be. I don't know that it's necessarily all bad, but certainly the trend is, and you're right that you're either an elite team or you're a team that's look, hey, we got to get in the draft and do this. Um, and I don't know why it changed that way, and that they necessarily can do something about it. I remember for years and years, I mean, that both the East and West were really competitive and really well balanced. I mean, you could go down, from the team that was in first place to the team that was in sixth place, and the team that was in sixth or seventh place was a really good basketball team. Oh, excuse me. Um, I don't know how we arrived at this particular point in time, and I'm not quite sure how we arrived at it becoming more of a 3-point shooting league as opposed to what I would call a basketball league. It seems like it's become kind of one dimensional.
Yeah, the analytics of the game is changed the way the game is looked at. Three is better than two, which is natural. Three is better than two, but if you can't hit a three, then two is better than
Yeah,
zero.
that's right.
And so, you see these teams every night, Neil. Which we would consider a bad shot. A contested jump shot was always a bad shot. And now it's normal. Guys shoot two guys draped on them. They're just firing up. No one goes for the rebound. It's just one shot and done. If you don't make it, you get back on defense. And even defense has struggled because of the 3-point shooting.
Yeah, the 3-point shot when it came in. I mean, the history of it is because I was around when the ABA and NBA merged, and the 3-point shot. Somebody said to me the other day, said, "Well, when they took that 3-point shot from the ABA and brought that in, that was the worst thing that happened." Not necessarily. When the ABA had the 3-point shot, it would be a lot of threes if a team took 7 or 8 in a game. And if you go back and look at the old ABA games, they weren't coming down just firing up threes. The three was intended for teams that were down by 8 or 9 with a minute left to try to get back in the game and add some excitement to the game. That's what it was really intended for. It was never a part of the really good ABA teams, the Nets with Julius Erving and the Indiana Pacers were teams that, I mean, it was, you watched them play basketball. It wasn't a 3-point shooting contest. And so when it came into the league, and even early in your career, Stacey, coaches didn't put a lot into trying to create plays to get open threes. I mean, and now the analytics have changed. I agree with you. And people have determined, well, a corner three is a higher percentage than this and that. But I don't think that's what the three was intended for. But it's a part of the game and part of the lexicon now. So I don't know what you can do to change that. The thing that's upsetting to me, not upsetting, but the thing that makes it hard some nights to watch an NBA game is you don't see a lot of NBA plays. You don't see basketball plays. I guess I should put it that way. You don't see teams running sets. You don't see them. There's not a lot of that. It just seems like it's almost thoughtless basketball. It's get to the corner, see if we can get somebody open for a three. And Stacey's right. You miss, just run back on defense. And the other thing I mentioned to Stacey today about the three is, how about guarding it? Does anybody guard it?
Yeah.
Hey, Neil, Stacey and I did a game a couple weeks ago, Bulls Hornets at the United Center. The two teams combined to miss 75 3-point shots. Now, I'm not an accomplished broadcaster like you, but I damn well ran out of things to say about missed threes. I mean, 75 misses between the two teams.
Yeah, it's just, Stacey made the point to me this morning. It's one thing if you're a great 3-point shooting team. He mentioned Golden State in years past when they had, Klay Thompson and Curry and Durant, and they were an outstanding 3-point shooting team. When you're not a good 3-point shooting team, it would seem to me that a missed three it doesn't give you as many points as a made layup or a made dunk or a made little hook in the baby hook in the lane. So I don't know. There's got to be somebody's going to have to come up with something, I think, because when I first started in the league, I remember I was in Kansas City, and the general manager at the time, Joe Axelson, I said to him something about the three coming in from the ABA, and that that shot was going to be helpful or whatever. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what? Nobody's going to buy a ticket to watch a jump shooting contest. They want to watch a basketball game." And that stuck with me when I see the number of threes that are being taken. Well, I don't know that it's going to change, and I don't know if it's because the court is too much smaller. The court is shrunk because of the size and speed and agility of these athletes. I mean, there's no question that when I started in the league to today, that the athletes today are just much more athletic, much bigger, much stronger because of the off-season workouts and so forth. But there's got to be a solution somewhere. Stacey will come up with one, don't you think?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. The solution is, if you don't shoot league average, don't shoot them. Simple as that.
Okay.
If you want to shoot threes, work on your threes. That's what the summer is for. I want to get back to seeing crisp passing, set screens, dive cuts, the movement of the basketball when the game was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
It's now just chuck and go. It's like looking at a bad men's league on a Sunday afternoon at 4:00. Guys, just I'm Steph Curry today. I'm shooting from 30 feet. That kind of thing.
But you mentioned the two things: crisp passing, flow, movement. And I was watching just a little bit of a Golden State game the other night, and people say, well, they were the model, and that's why everybody's shooting all these threes. But they shoot threes because of their crisp passing. I mean, that ball hums, until they get somebody wide open. And their threes are not contested. But they move the basketball, and they're not afraid to hit a cutter. They're not afraid to have guys dive to the basket and get a layup. So I'm with you, Stacey. I would much rather watch, a basketball game with some flow to it and some beauty of the continuity of offense and defense than I would just a perimeter shooting contest.
Exactly. So Neil, you're coming back. You're coming back to the microphone. I got you. I unthawed you out of ice. You was down in Florida. You were just hanging out on the beach in a Speedo, on the beach, running. And now I got you to come back to Chicago. You're getting back on the mic. How's that feel? Are you excited about it?
I'm going to look forward to it. I mean, it's something that, never leaves you when I'm watching games and stuff, but I'm going to count on you for your expertise and what's happening in the league right now. Obviously, I don't pay as much attention. I try to get to you and Adam and Mark as much as I can, and at least watch some of the Bulls games or parts of them. But I haven't watched a ton of NBA basketball. Maybe, I don't know if I've watched a whole game this season, but I'll turn it on and watch for a while just to see. And I follow it in the papers and online to see, who's got a good record and what's going on in the league. So it'll be interesting. Actually, if I was going to come back and do a game, this would be one I would have picked. Obviously, the Derrick thing is big, but the fact that it's Tom Thibodeau in New York, who, the New York-Chicago rivalry has always been one of the better ones in the NBA, and Tibbs having coached the Bulls and now coaching the Knicks. So that should be fun.
Who really misses you is Joe Grube. We were talking about you at a game recently, and Joe said that you guys had so much fun kidding around. I mean, Joe's got that acerbic wit. Every now and again, he gets those zingers in there.
He does, and he texts me quite often mentioning what a pain Stacey and Adam are when I'm gone. So I don't know that. No, Joe's great. Joe's great. So, people, they ask me, well, do you miss it? Well, there's some aspects you miss, and the biggest one is the people.
Yeah.
Do I miss Stacey? Yeah. Do I miss Joe? Yeah. Do I miss the director and the truck and the producer and the ancillary people from the Bulls who are around on game nights? Yeah, you miss all that. Maybe you don't miss doing the games quite so much, but I miss the people.
Yeah. The travels gets to you too after a while. I'm starting to feel it right now. I'm in dog years right now in the travel. Funk, I'm about ready to ride the sunset with you, baby, down in Florida, baby. I might be living next door.
You got a long while left. I was talking to Bill Wennington earlier, and I said, the one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing that table, and it'll look the same with Swirsky and Wennington.
Yes, Swirsky's still there. He's got a beard now. He's like he's hiding from the IRS. Well, he's got a full beard.
Well, he is hiring.
Well, I never thought a guy with a bald head could grow a beard. That's really cool.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
I didn't know. I was like, I never thought if you were a bald headed guy, you couldn't grow facial hair. I was really surprised to see that. That's pretty cool look on Chuck too.
Yeah, well, he looks good. He looks good. He's the youngest of all of us, isn't he?
No.
Hell no. You are.
I'm the youngest.
Stacey is. Yeah.
I'm the youngest and the sexiest.
Okay. That'll drive you crazy. So the answer to the question is I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. and mostly because of the people, and then the fact that it's a special night for Derrick and his family, and much deserved. And Stacey mentioned the fact, and or you did, Mark. I think that Derrick in his evolution is now wanting to come back and thank the fans in Chicago. And I know the fans in Chicago want to thank Derrick for what he meant to not just the Bulls, but as I said at the top, to the city of Chicago as well.
Where do you weigh in on the Derrick Rose's worthiness for the Hall of Fame?
Um, I'll leave that to somebody else. I mean, I certainly, he was the youngest MVP. He was a rookie. I mean, he was the MVP. It's not like he was the MVP of the Bulls.
Right.
He was the MVP of the damn NBA, and he was the Rookie of the Year in the NBA. And there are guys who are in the Hall of Fame that if you look at their numbers, you might say, I'm never going to question a guy who gets in to the Hall of Fame. Let's put it that way. But there are guys whose numbers you look at. And one of the other things I think you have to look at is what kind of impact did the player have, not just on the team that he played on, but on the league and maybe the city where he played. And Derrick, definitely qualifies in a lot of those areas because he was an impactful player, not just for the Bulls, but for other teams, and certainly was impactful for the city of Chicago. So, those are arguments that are going to go on forever. But I'll be curious to see how that goes. Derrick being so unselfish. I mean, obviously, it would be really meaningful for him were that to happen. But I don't think he's going to base the rest of what he does the rest of his life on the fact of whether or not he gets into the Hall of Fame. And I think Stacey would agree with that. I think Derrick's
gonna... No, I don't think he cares either way. I think he's content with the way the career path he went on. He came back from a serious knee injury and was still a productive player.
Yeah.
If you're asking me, I'm always going to be a Derrick Rose fan. I say definitely he's a Hall of Famer, just based off the fact that he was all NBA. He's Rookie of the Year. He was the youngest MVP ever. That qualifies right there as a Hall of Famer. Now, because of the injuries, he couldn't do anything about that. But when you talk about the impact that he's had, look at all these guards who've come out behind him that idolize him, the Ja Morants of the world, the Westbrook who came in at the same time. These guys pattern their games after Derrick Rose. So the impact that he had on the league and on a global stage was huge.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, right or wrong answer in that question, Mark, as to whether he's worthy as like Stacey said, because he was a Bull and because he was in the city of Chicago and from the city of Chicago. Yeah, I would definitely have no problem whatsoever saying that, Derrick should be in the Hall of Fame. But again, that's for other people besides me and or Stacey to determine whether or not he's gonna get in. I do know that tonight I think will be as meaningful as anything to Derrick, where he has an opportunity to thank his fans, and probably more importantly, we have a chance to thank him.
And I'm sure that number one at one day will be in the rafters at the United Center. Neil, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's going to be a special weekend for you to see so many great friends that you've made over the years, just to be back in that United Center and calling the game with Stacey. So we appreciate you making some time to share some reflections on Derrick Rose and your great career.
No problem, and it's not like we're actually doing the game with Stacey; it's carrying Stacey.
There we go.
Oh my God, the odd couple is back, baby! I can't wait.
Thanks, guys, and Stacey and Mark. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Neil. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys.
Neil Funk,
have a good one.
Kind enough to join us on the broadcast. We're going to talk a little football when Gimme the Hot Sauce rolls on. Welcome back. Gimme the Hot Sauce rolls on. The NFL season winding up, and now the big topic for Bears fans: who will be the next head coach? You could go for an experienced guy like a Mike Vrabel or a Pete Carroll. You could go try to get Ben Johnson, who I think is going to have a lot of competition saw where the Jacksonville Jaguars are thinking they may have the inside track because supposedly Ben Johnson likes Trevor Lawrence better as a guy he can build a franchise around. But it's going to have to be a selling job. I mean, the Bears are going to have to convince any potential candidate that they're serious about wanting to build a winner, and they're going to have whatever they need to get it done.
Well, Ben Johnson has a good situation right now being the offensive coordinator for Detroit Lions. He's one of the highest paid offensive coordinators, one of the coordinators in the game. And this is a team that's set up for the next 3 or 4 years to be very, very good. So why would you want to leave there if you're going to go to a place where you have no control? See, the Bears could go out and want the guy, but are they really going to put a winning team on the field with him? Are they going to put the pieces that he needs to turn this organization around? And that's where Ryan Poles has to be a little nervous about, because if he comes in, I read a report where he has a friend that he wants to bring in as
Ben Johnson, yeah.
That he wants to bring in a friend to be the general manager. So if you're Ryan Poles, you're like, maybe I don't want to do an interview with this guy because he's already got somebody in.
Back.
That's what I'm saying. So you don't know. So the Bears have to be willing to basically back up the truck, which they should have did Jim Harbaugh. They should have backed the truck up for him and paid him whatever they wanted to pay him, give him whatever control they wanted to give him, and let him turn this culture around. They didn't do it. They kept Eberflus, and you saw where this turned out to be. A team that everyone was excited about. They won 7 games the year before. You automatically thought they were going to win at least 10, 11 games this year because they were in so many games 2 years ago that they had a chance to win. They've come up short. So you got to feel good coming into the season. 7 wins. I mean, you asked me, I thought it was going to be 10 or 11, and it was disappointing.
You know, I would like to see the Bears just once do it in the proper order. If I were Kevin Warren, who obviously was brought in, given a lot of power, they wanted him to get the stadium deal done. They also have given a lot of decision-making authority in terms of football matters. You know, whatever you think about Ryan Poles, he did some good things. He got Caleb Williams in here. I would just tell, if I was Kevin Warren, I'd say, I'm bringing in my own general manager, and my general manager is going to hire the coach, and the coach is going to be able to hire his own staff. Do it the right order for once, because they always mess it up. You know, there were two young quarterbacks in a row who got their head coach fired after 1 year. Get the organization straightened out and give Caleb Williams a fighting chance to do something.
Well, I mean, again, you know, it's like shopping at a dollar store, or you're going to shop at an exclusive luxury store. You got to get into the luxury store, because if you want to keep up with Minnesota, you want to keep up with Green Bay, you want to keep up with Detroit, they're shopping at the luxury store. Yeah, you're still shopping at the mom and pop store. Nothing wrong with shopping at mom and pop, but you're going to find yourself behind these guys because they're equipping themselves for long-term success, not 1 year success, long-term success.
Yeah, you don't want another stopgap situation, because the next coach, they got to get this right, because you drafted Caleb Williams number 1 overall. He was considered a generational quarterback. I saw something the other day where they said if they would redraft the 2024 draft, that Caleb Williams would be like the 3rd guy selected, you know, and that's just revisionist history. Everybody's, you know, jumping on the Jaden Daniels bandwagon.
Yeah.
Now they're saying Drake May is better than Caleb.
Nobody
really knows what's going to happen.
Listen, those guys with the same coaching staff, the same offensive line, they would have failed miserably. I think if you keep Caleb Williams' stats, and then there's a way we could bring Jaden Daniels in here and let him play in the same line, his stats would not have been better than Caleb Williams. Drake May definitely wouldn't have been better than Caleb Williams' stats.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams showed that he's a big-time quarterback. He just needs a coach that believes in him, an offensive coordinator that can harness his skill set and put him in positions with his skill set to succeed and get a better offensive line. Spend some money and go out and get an offensive line. Stop buying cheap. Stop getting guys off the scrap heap to save money, because you got a franchise quarterback. That kid got sacked so many times this year, and you can say, oh, he held on to the ball too long, all that excuses. Bottom line is he was on his butt way too much.
You know what's really impressive about Caleb Williams? You know, he has a Wednesday press conference. He obviously meets the media after every game. Not once has he lashed out. And just the other day, I heard him defend his offensive line, saying, you know, some of those sacks are my fault by trying to hold on to the ball too long to create a big play. He's been a really good teammate. You know, here's a guy that came from L.A. He had that fancy, condo there and everything else. And he could have been a guy that came in as arrogant as hell and blaming everybody else. He hasn't done that once, and that really does impress me.
Well, that also looks good to your teammates, because it's easy to say we suck. They need to go give me some help. Offensive line, I mean, as soon as I hike the ball, they just come back there and sack me. Like,
Yeah.
we need help. That's what the front office is doing. He didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Respect to that kid. Respect. I've never heard him throw anybody under the bus this whole season.
Right.
When he had pretty much the right to do it a few times, But at the end of the day, he's gotta continue to grow, continue to develop. He's got to get a quicker release, because that's been one of the problems. And then he's just got to make sure he's ready for year 2. Like, he's gonna, in his mind, which I think he will. I think he's disappointed the way his season, because he's going to be the Bears' first 4,000-yard thrower.
Yeah,
he's
no
going. It's very obvious he has that kind of talent. And if they keep the same weapons, I know Keenan Allen is a free agent. They'll probably lose him. That guy was his security blanket this year. DJ, DJ Moore had a subpar season compared to what he had with Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be addressed, because if he's your number 1 receiver, you can't play him like he's a number 3 or 4 receiver.
And he's signed long term. He's going to be here.
He's going to be here for a while. I thought Rome Odunze did a really good job for a rookie, dropped some passes, but that rookies drop passes. But he seems like he has a bright future. And if they don't bring back Keenan Allen, his role will increase.
Yes.
I thought Cole Kmet, they could use him a little better, like they do typical all the tight ends on the good teams. They utilize their tight ends down the field, stretching the field. He's a guy that can get out and catch balls longer than 15 yards. I don't understand why they don't run more plays with him in the seam, where he's taking, a linebacker, they're double teaming him because he's got good hands. It opens up things for everybody else and opens up a running game. I thought Swift, once he figured that the line wasn't very good, and he said, "It's every man for himself, God for us all. Just keep me healthy." Once he figured it out,
making business
he was a
decisions
threat.
out there.
He was a threat, and they got the weapons. They just need to get a better line.
Let's talk a little college football. We've got the Final Four set in the first ever college football playoff. It's going to be Ohio State playing Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and then in the Orange Bowl, it's going to be Notre Dame against Penn State. The thing that was crazy about this, first year of the 12-team playoff, the top 4 seeds got a bye. All 4 of the teams that got byes lost, and most of them lost badly.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to look at this whole format in terms of, if you got your teams that are getting automatic byes getting knocked out immediately, maybe something's wrong with the way the whole thing was set up.
Yeah, and the home field advantage in the first round sucks too. I think it should be on neutral fields, because that's what you play for. And when you get into the tournament, you're playing in a neutral field. It's unfair for a team like Tennessee to have to come to Ohio State and play, or whoever they had to play.
Yeah,
they played Ohio State. Coming in Ohio State, playing in a horseshoe, cold weather, you have no chance to beat them there.
Right.
You have no chance. So I think everything's got to be on neutral field. And then I think they got to look at, forget giving conference championships, the automatic bid. Okay. Arizona State did play well enough. They could have beat Texas. So they really showed well. But SMU didn't really show very well against Penn State. Boise State didn't really show well. So they're going to have to look at that too. Alabama was crying. Miami was crying.
And
they all lost. Yeah. Both teams lost. So it's been exciting. I like the format.
Yeah. I like having 12 teams. They just got to figure out.
They just got to figure out the best 12 teams.
Yeah.
And then also home field advantage has got to go away from that. And then, I didn't expect Notre Dame to beat Georgia. I didn't see that one coming. I know Georgia was missing their quarterback, but I thought Georgia, with all the athletes and the NFL talent that they have, they would find a way to win. And Notre Dame manhandled them.
They might have to go to 16. That way, then there'll be no byes. Everybody plays in the first round.
I think it's a good idea that you play. I think because you most likely are sitting out a couple of weeks, because some of these guys are not having conference tournaments, so they're sitting at home and they're chilling for 2-3 weeks. So now you get rusty. You're so used to playing every Saturday. Now you're sitting out a little bit. You get rusty. Your timing's off. You're getting a team that's been playing. They're coming in on a hot streak, and it's tough to beat a team like that. Whether you got a home field advantage or not, it's tough to beat a team that's still playing and you've been sitting out chilling.
So who you got in the semis?
Man, this is a good semi. I think if you look at Texas and Ohio State, really, to me, is a championship game. They should have been on different brackets. That sucks. That's why I think they should restructure it. After you get past the quarterfinals, they should restructure it.
Texas gets to play in Dallas. They get a home game.
Yeah, they get a home game. They get a home game. But the way Ohio State is playing right now, that's not a gimme. Texas really struggled late against Arizona State. Ohio State presents a problem because not only can they run the ball and dominate the line of scrimmage, but their passing game is on point too. They got receivers all over.
Smith,
they got receivers all over the field, and their defense their front four defensively allows their secondary to play man-to-man. They're able to mix it up, mix the coverages up. And I thought Texas struggled a little bit in the second half against Arizona State with the coverages defensively. They weren't able to move the ball. Arizona State outplayed them. Yard-wise, they outplayed them. They had more passing yards, more rushing yards. They just didn't win the game. And you go back in that game, I don't know if you saw it, Mark, when the Texas safety targeted.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
And that should have been a penalty.
Yep.
And Arizona State should have won that game off that penalty. They stepped in and said, no, we don't want Arizona State in the Final Four.
We don't want the Sun Devils in the Final Four.
No.
Yeah, I'm for Ohio State. My daughter Brooke is a proud graduate of the Ohio State University, so we're going to show the colors for the Final Four and root for the Buckeyes. That's my team.
Yeah, shout out to Brooke. Brooke, I know. I know you think the Buckeyes are going to win, and I hate Texans with the passion, but they still represent the Big 12, former Big 12. Now they're SEC, so they're still our brother that we don't like. So I'm still repping Texas. I think Texas has enough to beat them. The Penn State Notre Dame game is going to be interesting because both of them are kind of similar styles.
I don't think either of those teams is that great though.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They got lucky to be in that side of the bracket.
Yeah.
I think Penn State will win that game, but it'll be one of those ugly smash mouth games that low scoring and the team with the least amount of turnovers win. I think they're playing right now with a lot of confidence, but I don't think any one of those teams beat Ohio State or Texas in the finals.
Well, before we get out of here, one of our regular features here on Gimme the Hot Sauce, we try to give you some tips on what we're watching on the various streaming services. What do you got this week, Stacey?
I just started watching this show on Apple, Bad Sisters.
Okay. And
I didn't think I was going to like it because it was about ladies.
Yeah.
So, but it's a really good show. It's like a lot of twist in. It's about 4 sisters. They all have problems. One of the sisters is married to the brother-in-law of the other 3, who's just a total jerk. He's always constantly needling the other sisters. So they get this plan that they want to kill him. And so first, the 2 sisters were involved. They wanted to do it. The other 2 didn't want it. They didn't want the other 2 involved because they didn't want them to know about it. And then it got to the point that this guy picked on all of them so bad that they all wanted to kill him. And he was really a narcissist to his wife. He didn't want her to do anything. He was really mean to her, talked down to her. So it got to the point where she's all in now. It's a great show. It's a lot of twist to it. And you don't know, because there's a lot of scenes where, is this when they killed him? Or, and you're guessing back and forth. But it's a good show.
Paramount Plus has come up with some really great stuff lately. They've got a new series on the whole Dexter chain. They've got a remake. This is the prequel talking about Dexter Original Sin, and they recast all the characters. You see all the young detectives, like LaGuerta coming into the Miami precinct. And, it's funny to see all of them as young people. And the young guy that got cast as Dexter is spot on. He obviously studied the series. It's got all the mannerisms, all the movements. It's really a fun show. But, the believability thing, like in the second episode, he kills this huge guy. And, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
There's a little guy killing these huge people. And you kind of, sometimes the realism hurts you a little bit on that.
Because Dexter, the original Dexter always had to hit him with some kind of a needle.
Yeah,
put him out. Yeah. He never really got into any fights with him, physical confrontations.
Right.
It was always sneaking up behind him and jabbing him with the needle. Yeah. So I'm anxious to see this Original Sin because I'm a big fan of Dexter. I think it's one of the best shows that was out there that was created. That whole series was awesome with the different every 2 or 3 weeks. It'd be a different character that Dexter had to find and try to kill. It was just done perfectly.
He was a lovable serial killer.
Yeah.
If you could imagine
you always agreed
for him.
You always agreed with what he did.
Yeah.
And you saw nothing wrong with what he did because he was
a
a vigilante to the people who got off crimes that they committed, murder or rape or whatever. And so you felt for the families that didn't get justice, and then here you are, you got Dexter getting justice for you.
Well, you know what else is great on Paramount Plus is Landman.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the last episode. I'm laughing out loud. I mean, the dialogue between him and his ex-wife is just hilarious.
Yeah, he's funny. With the way his daughter dresses, and they had, he's talking about you can't have sex in the room.
That's Billy Bob Thornton. The lead character in Landman. So that's also on Paramount Plus. So check out those shows. And when Whispers gets back from Fort Myers, we'll see what the hell he was doing when he was soaking up the city. One thing we can tell you for sure, he will be redder than redder can be. It's be like, Mars.
Yes. He'll be, I'm telling you, Larry the Lobster. Be red as this hat I'm wearing right now, America.
Hey, we want to thank you for joining us for the latest episode of Gimme the Hotcast. Gimme the Hot Sauce Podcast.
Hey, somebody's drinking somewhere. Happy hour somewhere in this place.
Want to thank Neil Funk for joining us. It's always great to catch up with Neil. And we're going to come at you with a new show next week. Until then, Stacey, thanks.
Drive home safely. Beep, beep.
Oh, my goodness. It's only preseason, but I'm hyped, Neil Funk.